Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Google I/O Extended for GDG Accra. We are happy that Google I/O is back online and free for everyone to connect. The aim is to connect developers around the world and have thoughtful discussions, and also have hands-on learning with Google developer experts across the world. And we'll also be taking a look at the latest developer product that Google has released. The magic of I/O doesn't end after the main event. That's why GDG Accra is hosting the I/O Extended event to bring together local developers to talk about favorite announcements from I/O and all the cool new technologies. During today's session, we'll be having 4 amazing speakers who will talk on the following topics. About the first topic will be discovering and fixing low contrast tests with Chrome Devtools. Then we'll look at debugging web app with the Chrome Devtools. Then we'll look at Flutter design patterns. And finally, we'll look at the top AI and ML announcements from Google I/O 2020. So we'll go live soon. We'll be showing the Google I/O event which is about 12 minutes to begin with. And after our first 2 speakers, we'll be doing some giveaways. So stay tuned and I hope you learn a lot. Okay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Let's actually make that welcome back. I'm excited to show you how we are deepening our understanding of information so that we can turn it into knowledge, and advancing the state of computing so that knowledge is easier to access, no matter who or where you are. Today, I'm excited to announce that we are adding 24 new languages to Google Translate. This includes the first indigenous language of the Americas, and together these languages are spoken by more than 300 million people. Using advances in 3D mapping and machine learning, we are fusing billions of aerial and street-level images to create a new high-fidelity representation of a place. We are using computer vision to detect buildings at scale from satellite images. As a result, we've increased the number of buildings on Google Maps in Africa by 5 times. At Google, whenever I get a long document or email, I look for a TLDR at the top. TLDR is short for too long, didn't read. And it got us thinking, wouldn't life be better if more things had a TLDR? That's why we have introduced automated summarization for Google Docs. And Docs are only the beginning. We are launching summarization for other products in Workspace.
Later this year, we'll add a new way to search for local information with multi-search near me. Let's say I spotted a tasty-looking dish online. With this new capability, I can quickly identify that it's japchae, find nearby restaurants that serve it, and enjoy it in no time. With an advancement we're calling scene exploration, you'll be able to use multi-search to pan your camera and ask a question and instantly glean insights about multiple objects in a wider scene.
Today, we're excited to share how we're starting to use the Monk skin tone scale to build more inclusive products across Google. We've started using the Monk scale to help improve how we understand and represent skin tone in products like photos and search.
Even as technology grows increasingly complex, we keep more people safe online than anyone else in the world. We were the first consumer technology company to offer 2-step verification. And we're now the first to turn it on by default. Whether you're on Android or iOS, just one tap on your phone and you're in. No 6-digit codes. We're constantly monitoring the security of your Google account to give you peace of mind. We're now adding a safety status on your profile picture. So if anything needs your attention, we'll let you know and then guide you through simple steps to ensure your account is secure. We've engineered a new technical approach we call protected computing. At its core, protected computing is a growing toolkit of technologies that transforms how, when, and where data is processed to technically ensure the privacy and safety of your data.
Soon, if you find search results that contain your contact details, such as your phone number, home address, or email address that you want taken down, you can easily request their removal from Google search.
The journey we've been on with computing is an exciting one. I've always thought computers should be adapting to people, not the other way around. So we continue to push ourselves to make progress here. To share more about how we are making computing more natural and intuitive with the
Initiate conversations with your assistant. First is a new feature for Desktop Macs called Look and Talk. I can simply look over and ask, show me some beaches in Santa Cruz. We're also improving how the assistant understands you by being more responsive as you just speak naturally. For example, I might tap and hold on my Pixel Buds and say, play the new song from... Florence and the something?
Got it. Playing Free from Florence and the Machine on Spotify.
Today, we are excited to announce Lambda 2, our most advanced conversational AI yet. We are at the beginning of a journey to make models like these useful to people, and we feel a deep responsibility to get it right. That's why we have made AI Test Kitchen. It's a new way to explore AI features with a broader audience. This demo tests if the model can take a creative idea you give it and generate imaginative and relevant descriptions.
And this will be the first ever live demo of Lambda from stage. I'm going to tap Start, and this is a project I've been thinking a lot about lately. Plant a vegetable garden. I'll send this off to Lambda, and there it is. On the fly, it's come up with these different steps and broken it down into this list of subtasks. One of the other things Lambda does is not just break down lists, but you can generate a tip. So here, when I tap Generate a Tip, it's never seen this one before, actually. It's telling me if I have a small yard or patio. It gives me different vegetables I might be able to grow. You can see all the different pathways that Lambda is helping me think through and giving me tips along the way.
As you just saw, Lambda 2 has incredible conversational capabilities. To explore other aspects of natural language processing and AI, we recently announced a new model. It's called Pathways Language Model, or PaLM for short. It's our largest model to date and trained on 540 billion parameters. And when we combine that scale with a new technique called chain of thought prompting, the results are promising. Chain of thought prompting allows us to describe multi-step problems as a series of intermediate steps. Now, if we ask the model how many hours are in the month of May, it actually answers correctly. Recently, we announced plans to invest $9.5 billion in data centers and offices across the US. One of our state-of-the-art data centers is in Mays County, Oklahoma. I'm excited to announce that there we are launching the world's largest publicly available machine learning hub for all our Google Cloud customers. We hope this will fuel innovation across many fields, from medicine to logistics, sustainability, and more. And speaking of sustainability, this hub is already operating at 90% carbon-free energy. This is helping us make progress on our goal to become the first major company to operate all our data centers and campuses globally on 24/7 carbon-free energy by 2030.
Android 13 builds on our Material You design language, so your phone has even more ways to adapt to your style. Of course, Android 13 comes jam-packed with dozens of new security and privacy features. When you send a message from your phone to someone else's, you want to be sure it's private and secure. That's why we've worked with carriers and device makers all over the world to upgrade SMS text messaging to a new standard called RCS, which can enable important privacy protections like end-to-end encryption. Today, we're excited to introduce the new Google Wallet. It's a digital wallet for Android that gives you fast, secure access to your everyday essentials.
We are now approaching 270 million active users on large screen devices. Starting today, we'll be updating more than 20 Google apps to look amazing on large screens.
And here's one of my favorite new features. Copy something on your phone and paste it on your tablet. It could be a URL, an address, or even a picture or screenshot.
An ambient approach gets the tech out of your way so you can live your life while getting the help you need. It doesn't matter what device you're using, what context you're in, whether you're talking, typing, or tapping. The technology in your life works together seamlessly.
Pixel 6a gives you the same great Android experience as our Pixel 6 Pro. We truly believe it's the best smartphone we've ever offered for this price.
Let me give you an early preview so you can see what's coming this fall. Pixel 7 and 7 Pro are designed to deliver the most helpful, most personal experience you can get in a smartphone. They'll use the next generation of our Google Tensor SoC, bringing even more AI-heavy breakthroughs and helpful personalized experiences across speech, photography, video, and security. Pixel Buds Pro. These earbuds have all the helpfulness and smarts you'd expect from Google, embedded in the best mobile audio hardware we've ever designed. And they're the first Pixel Buds with active noise cancellation.
The new Google Pixel Watch. It's the first watch built inside and out by Google. And it's coming this fall with our new Pixel 7.
Today we talked about all the technologies that are changing how we use computers and access knowledge. Looking ahead, there is a new frontier of computing, which has the potential to extend all of this even further, and that's augmented reality. At Google, we've been heavily invested in this area. Let's take language as an example. Language is just so fundamental to connecting with one another. The joy that comes with speaking naturally to someone. That moment of connection to understand and be understood. Let's see what happens when we take our advancements in translation and transcription and deliver them in your line of sight in one of the early prototypes we've been testing.
I'm actually looking straight into your eyes, and it seems like you're looking right at me.
That's what our focus on knowledge and computing is all about. The ability to spend time focusing on what matters in the real world, in our real lives. And it's what we strive for every day with products that are built to help. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Wasn't that very exciting? I'm really stoked with the new technologies that have been released. You can leave your comments in the chat about which technology pleases you the most. So let's go. We will deep dive in soon. We'll be going with our first speaker, who is Audrey. Audrey is a software engineer at Tentable Ghana Limited. She holds a bachelor's degree in information technology from the Accra Institute of Technology. She uses technologies such as Azure, React, and Spring Boot to solve many problems. She also believes in the cloud, that cloud is the future, and she is satisfied in it also. Aside from work activities, she's also a woman in STEM advocate. Therefore, she is a member of organizations such as the Microsoft User Group Ghana, Pi Ladies, and Developers in Vogue, which help women to transition or enter the STEM field. During her spare time, she likes exploring nature or visiting new countries. So today, Audrey is going to take us through how we can discover and fix low contrast tests in Chrome developer tools. So without much ado, Audrey, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. So, hi, Alfred. Thank you. So, anytime there is this bio, I'm like, hey, okay. Oh. I'm just a very regular person. But yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. I just want to say thank you first to DGD Accra, Google Developers Group, for having me. And yeah, so far so good. You guys are doing great for the community, and I'll do what I can to support. So thanks for having me. I don't know if I can share my slides, if they can be. Let me just. So share. Good. So all right. So yep. Can you all see my screen? Good, that's nice. So first of all, very sorry. Sometimes I'll be looking in that direction because that's where my screen is. It doesn't mean that I'm distracted. I'm with you guys, but that's where the screen is. So sometimes I just have to check in how things are going. So yes, first, I'm Audrey, and I am here to talk about discovering and fixing low contrast text with Google Devtools. Right. So let's get into it. Right. So, all right. Good. I'm already on slide. Good. So first slide, we want to know what is it. So just to give a little bit of context. So I met somebody who had issues differentiating between green and red. Yeah. I don't know if there are other ones coming in, but yeah. Um, I'm sure there are other deficiencies that people have when it comes to colors. Whenever you blend certain type of colors, some people just can't see. So if you have a gray text on top of a yellow background, some people may not be able to see what the text actually says, or what the text is actually, the message that the text is actually conveying. And this is just to say that there are people who have color vision deficiency. And the fact that most people in the whole world could see things on the screen so easily. You go to conferences, sometimes 100% of the people who look at what you've written or your slides can actually see very well what it is, or read very well from afar. Doesn't mean that everybody is blessed with that. So, and these people with that kind of deficiency are also referred to as colorblind people. So for coming back to my friend or that person that I met, whenever we were playing some little games and they see a red, there may be some instances where they actually know that this is red, and they're like, the next second, no, it's not red, I think it's green. No, maybe it depends on the way, on where they see it, or the settings, or if there are so many colors, they are just like, they can't differentiate. And according to Google, 1 in 10 people suffer from it. So it's actually massive. I know many people might not want to talk about it, but it's actually something that is here. 1 out of 20 people. That's like a huge number. Yeah. So it's something that we should really take into consideration when we are talking about building applications, interfaces, when we are talking about user experience and stuff like that. Let's not just forget that everybody's not like us, and everybody doesn't have that privilege to see everything just clearly. Yeah. So some people, per the research that I did and by the documents that Google provided for this talk, these are some cases of this color blindness that we have and that we can actually fix with Google Chrome. So the first example is protanopia. I don't actually know the name, so I don't know how to pronounce it very well. So please forgive my accent. So it's the inability to perceive any red light. I mean, when I first came across this, I was just like, what? Then if you're a front-end engineer or you are a UX designer, you have a lot of work. Like, you have a lot of things to learn, because don't just assume that people have your eyes and they can see exactly what you do and they can perceive it the way you perceive it. because there's this whole perception behind the scenes. Like, I'm assuming, when you design a button and you want this button to be something that people should avoid, like a danger zone, you usually put a red, like it will usually have maybe some borders that are red or some texts that is red. And you'll be like, okay, everybody's going to see it as red. But if you put this red on top of, let's just say, some green, some people may get confused. Like if your background color is green and then you put that red button because that is actually the theme, or how will I say, the color palette that you are using for your application, and you put that red there, you think that everybody will be able to see it the way I see. Nope, it's not always the case. So, but you don't worry, there is something here to help us fight it and to put everybody into consideration. So the second one is a deuteranopia, the inability to perceive any green light. So it's just like the first one, right? Whenever we decide to play around with colors, we should really be mindful as UX designers or front-end developers as a whole, or anybody that comes, that is working on something that has to do with something that users will see directly. It's extremely important to take into consideration these users, because they are also here, they matter, and just care, just care about everybody. Give the opportunity to everybody to be able to explore your product and to enjoy it as they navigate it. There are a couple of more, and on these slides you only have 4. But yeah, and we are going to talk more about it. So now let's play a little game. Let's just see how 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 good we are when it comes to color. I wouldn't say how good, but how we perceive colors. So yeah, I don't know if I can see the chat. Unfortunately, I can't. I don't know, Alfred. I will have, if anybody wants to say something, please just let me know. So I just want us to play a little game. So these are colors. These are texts that are written on these colors, and I want you to tell me what's the first text. What is it saying? You can write it in the comments, because you can obviously not unmute yourself. But if you can write it in the comments, that would be great. I just want to see if we have people who have these deficiencies here. Alfred, I hope you can see all of it, right? Okay. All right. I mean, can see. Okay, very, yeah. That's true. It's very good. Nana too can see, very good. So Sutu can see, cool, cool. Alfred, of course. So thanks all for saying this, and congratulations. I wouldn't say congratulations. I'll just say, well, you are lucky, you are blessed enough to have a good eyesight, but it's really not the case for everybody. And even though some people could spot that this is actually the exact word, this is the word very, some had to maybe come close to the camera in order to be like, let me make sure that this is actually the word that is, how will I say it? This is actually the word that is written here. Some people could have come close and just try to, and others will be like, I don't see it, it's fine. And others will be like, okay, even if I go far, I can see. You are just blessed. That's all I can say. You are just blessed. It's not easy for everybody like that. So we have to take into consideration these people. Right. So the little game is over. Let's continue. So how to fix it? So there's a concept, because Google cares, of course, there is a way to fix it. Whenever you are building an application and you want to test it in your browser, you can actually test all this from there. and you can fix it. If you were playing around with colors and you realize that, okay, this color is actually not the best, or maybe it will work well, or you are designing an application for a certain group of people that you already know have a certain that you are already aware of their deficiency, you could actually fix it right from your browser before you even do anything. Just you can get the right color and then put it in your code and get going with it. So yeah, so the web content accessibility has levels, and you have the AA level, which is the medium one, and I think it's the range is like 4.15. But this is an exercise for you. It's for you to read more about it. But yeah, so it's the medium range that you have in your contrast. So whenever you put in the contrast of your colors, so this color contrast, whenever we will try to fix it, because we are going to fix what I've shown you earlier, when we fix it, we can see that we are given the opportunity to explore these contrasts. And on the Google the Google develop the Devtools, you could actually see when you are below, when you are really within the range that you are supposed to be within, so that this text, everybody can see these texts, or people of a certain deficiency can actually be can actually read what you actually what you wrote, no matter the background, no matter how it looks, but they can actually see the text. And we are going to see all about it in a minute. But yeah, there are standards that you have to come up with, you have to follow in order for you to be able to deliver a quality software that takes into consideration every single person, regardless of their deficiencies, right? So, not just yet. So for that, I'm going to stop presenting and we'll go to the browser. So, yep. So this is the text that I showed you earlier, and now we are going to practically see how we are going to fix this right from the Devtools. Yeah. So as I said during my presentation, we are going to fix it in the first. We take into consideration people with this, with protanopia, yeah, the inability to perceive any red light. So yeah, good. So now let's see. To do so, we will just have to inspect the text that we want people to see and to adjust. So this very text, and we can see that there are different of them, like different types, different colors on top of other colors, and you know. So now let's inspect it. Oh, not that. So when you go to the inspect, these are the steps. You go, you inspect it. When you come, you will see that this, after inspecting it, of course, you have your tools open. And let me just close it so that I show you the steps exactly. You can already see the color of the text. Yeah. Okay. This is not a CSS class, master class or something like that. I'm really sorry about that, but this is how you define colors of a text. So yeah. And then when you're here, you are supposed to locate the dependencies. Like you are supposed to locate where you actually adjust it based on the people with the deficiency you are looking for. So to do that, you go to more tools. There is a shortcut, but I just want to show you the long way. So you feel comfortable anytime you forget the shortcuts, because shortcuts are like, and sometimes you can just forget about them. So you come to rendering. So from rendering, you locate the emulate vision deficiencies. Sorry if I said dependencies. I don't know why I said that. Maybe because I did some dependency code today. Just kidding. So yeah, you locate the emulate vision dependencies. So this will help us adjust the contrast based on the vision deficiency that we have. So if we selected our vary. So if we go to people with protanopia, we can see that just looking at the way they see this page, it's already different, right? So let's just say none, no emulation. Already there is a difference. This is what we all see. This is what we all know. And this is what we all assume everybody can see, but it's not the case. So when you come and you emulate people with this deficiency, the deuteranopia, really sorry about the names, you can see that the content has already, it's already changed. I'm sure that if we had people like that here with that deficiency here, they wouldn't have been able to see this text right now. Like they will see it, they have to come very close to the camera in order for them to see this. Now, now we go back to the deficiency that we are interested in for this demo. This is how the text looks like. And now how do we want to fix it? Because man, people can't see this. It's complex, it's difficult. So when you come here, you click on your color panel. You just see that, okay, there is a color panel and yeah, maybe that's it. I'll just by chance myself decide to put in a color that I assume is the best. I can't deny that it's true. Now the text seems very clear right now, true, but that's not it. Trust me, that is really not it. So you can already see that the ratio has changed here. So when we were here, the ratio was like, the contrast ratio was 1.73, which is really bad, right? Which is really low for a contrast. People can't see well with this. And if you have a page that uses it a lot throughout, like they're just not going to be happy. So now, for you to make your users happy, you have this here. You can extend this panel, and then you see the levels of contrast ratio. And when you click on it, you go to the documentation. But well, we are not going there right now. But yeah, when you click on it, if you want to know more about it, you can just go click on it and you'll be fine. But if you coming back to fixing our issues, we have these two lines here that we can see in our color panel. Yeah, you can see that here, when we put under it, now we've achieved the first level, which is the medium. The ratio is now 3. But when we were here, it was 233, which was close, but not the best. People with that kind of disability will still hardly see. Now, when you come here, you've achieved 3, which is good. I mean, people can see. But when you go below this second line, you can see how it becomes for this particular color. So for this particular color, this is what we have. You see. Can you see it now? The difference that it makes from the first that we had. Now, when we go to the standard, which is high, this is the standard that's very high. Once you've achieved that, you've really done well in terms of this particular contrast. And it's a lot of work because look, we just fixed for the first. There are a bunch of more. So if you come and you come to select this one, and then you try to fix the color of the text, you come back here and you locate your 2 lines. This below, this is the medium, which is good, not so bad, but this is the best. If you could achieve that, this is the best. So you have a bunch of these things to do when you are designing websites. And please just have it in mind as a front-end engineer, as a UX designer, have it in mind that everybody, don't just assume that people can see what you see or can read what you read. Because even though we managed to fix these two, we still have this one. That is not obeying. Let's try and select it. We can see that when we select it, the contrast is not followed. We still haven't gotten there yet because it's 2.3. It should be minimum of 3 in order for us to achieve the best. So when we come here, we can see that now the contrast is better. They can read the text. And they have this, and that's because of the color that is also behind it, the background color, exactly. So, and the color of the text on it. So it's a contrast. And for you, and we are not saying don't use these colors whenever you are building. We are just saying that if, let's just say, it becomes a customer requirement or a stakeholder requirement for you to use these two colors in this particular range or this particular arrangement, just take into consideration that some people may not be able to see. And you want to fix that. You don't want to just you don't just want to be like, okay, they asked me to do this and that's it. And I've tried my best. You want to fix it. Please don't leave it like that. So you could come and achieve it. You can come and put it down. You can see that now they can read better because the contrast is better and it's a standard. So which means that it has been tested. It has been approved that this actually works. People do research, people do invest in those things. So please don't take it into consideration. When you want a shade of blue, and etc. You know, when I will refresh the page, everything will just go back to normal because changes are not saved in the browser. So yeah, that's it for the demo that I had for you. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, let me just go back to my slides and seeing how we can fix it. I don't know why this thing didn't update. These resources are not supposed to be here, but hey, this is it. Thank you very much. I don't know if you have questions. Yeah, but I'm done with my presentation, and I hope you've learned something, because just take into consideration everybody before you say or you assume that people are just the way you are. And I know Alfred knows about it. I mean, he's building softwares for people to use. So thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Audrey. That was an amazing talk. I got to learn a lot. Yeah, the contrast, especially when I'm building this application, you need to be mindful of the contrast. I usually get designers presenting designs where the text is kind of too blurry. Yeah, so
exactly.
yeah, you should take that into effect when develop applications. I've not seen any question yet. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat. We'll be on for a while whilst we get to our next speaker. Okay.
Be mindful of your users. I've seen your app. Be mindful. I'm just pulling your legs. I know you care about your users. After all, that's why you are here yourself. So I know you care about your users.
Yeah.
Okay.
The user is king. You must make the user happy. Yeah. So yeah.
Yes, we must make the user happy. Hi, Claudia.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I guess you take over now. I've not seen any question yet, so I guess that will be for now. Okay.
Okay.
Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Claudia.
Thank you, Alfred. Okay, so our next speaker is Ivan, and he's a software developer at Vodacom, and he'll be speaking on the debugging web apps with the Chrome Devtools. So let's welcome Ivan. Hi, Ivan. We can't hear you. You are muted.
Oh, the classic. Sorry.
Okay. Hi. Hope you're good.
Hi. I'm doing just fine. What about you?
I'm also good. We are hoping to learn a lot. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks. Also, I enjoyed the presentation by Audrey. I think she she explains a lot of things that I'm not gonna touch. She went very deep into the contrast. I learned a lot of things in how to test and improve the contrast of web apps. Yep. I hope next time I make a web app, I don't have a mix of gray and yellow. Yep. Thanks. So I'm going to share my screen. Uh, you let me know when you can see it. Okay. So is it visible? Hello?
Yeah, your screen is
Hello,
visible.
can you
You
see
can
my
go ahead.
screen?
Yeah, you can see your screen. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Just like I said, this presentation is about Devtools. In here, I'm going to share a couple of things I know about debugging Chrome web apps with Chrome Devtools. Just as a disclaimer, I think this is the second presentation I do at GDG Accra. The first one I did in 2019, and now this one for the IO in 2022. Thanks for having me once again. It really means something that I'm able to do two presentations in GDG Ghana, Accra more specifically, since I'm doing this presentation from Maputo, Mozambique. So I hope you learn you learn something in this presentation. Well, and the subheading of the presentation is no more console log. I know web developers and Node.js developers overuse console log for everything. And I think there's better ways to debug web apps that are more productive, more insightful. In this presentation, I'm going to share some of those. I think this is an infamous phrase by developers when they reported a bug, whether by a user or by a stakeholder. Generally, what they say is that, but it works on my machine now. So every day, a frustrated developer. This is often a struggle between developers and users, where the users find the bug, but developers are unable to reproduce it. I'm hoping to share a few tips on how you can reproduce those bugs, and better even yet, how you can prevent it. As we go, the scope of this presentation is actually, I'll do my best to cover the Elements tab, the console, the sources, the network, and the application tab in the Devtools. So I'll try to cover these if the time allows, and yep. And also, just as a disclaimer, I'm using Chrome. There's a slight difference between Chrome and Chromium. So Chromium is the open source web browser that I think is maintained by Google also, but there are slight differences, as in some APIs, some proprietary APIs are on Chrome, but are not on Chromium. So there's plenty of these APIs that you don't have in Chromium, but you have in Chrome. But in general, the Devtools are similar or exactly the same. There might be maybe some changes in the UIs. So Chrome is based on Chromium. I think Microsoft Edge is also based on Chromium. So yeah, for the Chrome browser, there's 4 versions that are important to keep track of if you want to learn more about Devtools. There's the live Chrome version, which is released every 6 weeks. That's their release timeline, unless there's something that they have to update midway. There's also the Chrome Dev version, which is updated weekly, and the Chrome Beta, which is updated weekly as well. The main difference between these two versions is in the Chrome Dev, You get to test web APIs, and it's mostly for developers, whereas the Chrome beta is for enthusiasts, people who want to test the latest features and then report it to the developers. And then you have the Chrome Canary, which is updated nightly, which means every night is going to be updated, and it's not stable compared to stable compared to beta and dev. So these are the 4 versions of Chrome that you can keep track of if you want to learn more about the Devtools. Usually, if I'm not mistaken, the Chrome Canary is 2 versions ahead of the live one. The Chrome beta is 1 version ahead. So now I think now we're on Chrome 102. I think Canary is on 104, and beta is 103. Just as a disclaimer, like for Ubuntu, you don't really have all of these versions. I think Ubuntu only has the Chrome version, the official. You don't get the beta nor the Canary. These are only available on Windows and Mac OS. And I'm talking, I think we can jump to the meat of the section, which is Chrome DevTools. I'm using Chrome version 102 on Ubuntu. So I think we can start. I'm just gonna jump straight to a random website. This is one of the websites I helped build in my when I was working previously in this company. It's a job portal. It's a job portal. Here you can apply to jobs, and you can see the vacancies, and you can apply to these vacancies. There's many ways to launch Chrome. Some people like to click inspect, and then this tab shows. Some click Control-Shift-I. It really just depends. I'll use either one of these two. So here I use just for the viewers, I use Control-Shift-I. This will also launch like a version of Chrome DevTools. So this is what Audrey, I think since most of us have been seeing this is what it looks like, what Audrey was showing. You have all of these tabs here. This one you might not have, it's just Adblock. I use Adblock, but you have the element, the console. This one, I'm gonna push it this side, and this one I'm gonna. You have the elements, the console, the network, and then the sources. These are the most common tabs that you'll use while you debug for your apps. And I'm going to start with the first one, which is the elements tab. The elements tab gives us a representation of the DOM, and it gives us great insight of the many things that we can do inside a DOM. So one thing that I would like to share here is, like, on Chrome, you can actually reload a page. So there's multiple levels of you can reload this. There's multiple levels of reload. So if you click this button and hold, there's normal reload. So you have to click on this icon and hold the mouse. So there's normal reload, there's hard reload, and then there's empty cache and hard reload. This will just do a normal reload. This will do a hard reload. I think the most important one is this one that empties the cache and does the hard reload, which is kind of the same as opening this page in an incognito window. So when you open it in an incognito window, it doesn't have cache. It's just like a whole new page without cookies, without cache or anything. That's what I wanted to share. So sometimes the fix for your user is just to do empty cache and hard reload. Okay, so I'm going to also, you can do Control-Shift-R. That will also empty cache and hard reload. So here we have the representation. I'm going to expand. I think there's a, okay. Yes, there's this command for expanding recursively. It will expand all the nodes in the tree. Yes, I think it's already expanding. So here you have the representation of the DOM. I think all the developers know this. If you highlight it here, it's going to show on the page itself what it looks like. I think the most interesting part is when you select a given node. Just as a heads up, Chrome allows you to screenshot nodes right away. So if I want to screenshot this node, I just have to open this option and then capture node. And then if I do that, it's going to download the screenshot of that node. So if you see, here's the screenshot. Like this is the node screenshot. And there's multiple screenshots or multiple captures you can do. You can open it using the UI, or you can use I like to use the command line. So I like to use the keyboard. If you click Shift Control P, it's going to open this run commands interface where you can just search for screenshot, and you can capture array screenshot, capture full size screenshot, capture node screenshot, or just capture the screenshot. If you want to screenshot the entire page, you just select this one, capture full size screenshot, and then it will just screenshot the entire page, and then download the image. And you can also follow the other options. One thing that is really important or nice about using this command line is I can pretty much launch anything on Chrome. Like I can open the rendering drawer. It's going to open the rendering drawer, and I can run multiple commands in the context of a browser. So you can write show console, show element, show layer, show lighthouse. There's multiple commands that you can run simply with this command UI. Okay, so I'm going to close this browser command. So you can highlight an item. Suppose I want to highlight in this item. I think you select it here, and then you highlight the item, and right away it gives you some information about that DOM element. It tells you the size, the background image, and also it gives some information about accessibility, which Audrey did a great job explaining. So I can focus on this element and then expand here. Okay, great. Okay, so when I select on a given element, it shows me these other drawers, which has the styles, computed layout, the event listener, DOM. There's plenty of things happening here. So in the styles tab, I can see the styles that have been applied to this item. Just as a heads up, there's a difference between the styles and the computed. In the styles tab, it tells you what CSS rules are targeting this element, whereas the computed tab tells you which CSS rules have been applied. So here are the ones that are targeted, here are the ones that have been applied. And here you can see like all the properties that have been all the properties have been changed or applied by the rules. And also here you see in the exact line that these rules have been created, and right away here you can see which Chrome tries to show you which rules have been discarded right away. So these ones that have been discarded, you have like you have this grayish icon. Something that maybe you didn't know, like here you will see the rules that you target for this element, and also you see what the browser style sheets. So in the browser style sheet, it says user agent style sheet. So these are the browser style sheet. Whereas in the styles that you're applying, it's gonna tell you the file name. So here you have user agent, and then you have the file name. I think that one thing that is interesting here is like if you can select the background color. I think Audrey talked about this, and then here you can change the color. Another cool thing is that if you select the color and then just go to any place, anywhere in the page, and then you can use this as an eye drop to know what is the code of the color of each of the DOM elements. So here, this is the code of the color. I can change it to reddish. I can change it to green. I can change it to yellow. I can change it to green, to multiple colors. So you can do like this many. This is surely this is going to, this is not friendly in terms of accessibility, has contrast like Audrey explained, but you have this possibility of eye dropping in any icon and then finding any element on the page and then finding the color. So I'm just gonna undo this. If you click ask, it's just gonna undo everything that you selected. One thing that maybe you didn't know, like so if you want to see a given state for this DOM element, I want to see what happens when you hover it, what happens when you click it without performing the actual. If I wanted to know, I could do this, and then when I hover, it changes the color. Like, but I want to do that without having to perform the action. So if you select options, you can open here. It says force state. And then you can force the active state, the hover, the focus, the visited. So you can force the hover, like, and then Chrome is going to give you this this orange icon saying that this element has been forced at the hover state. One place that is really clear, I can just select one of these links. And then I can, like, it's black now. I can force any state on this one. Yes, I can force the active, and then now I force the active. It seems like it doesn't change much. Or I can force any of these states here. I think since this is a link, I can force the visited too. So you can use this to debug when a given style sheet is being applied. We can look at, I can disable here. You can also do this by going to this part of the page. You select the element and then you force any of these states. And also here in the styles, I can see that this element doesn't have any. I think this one has, also this doesn't have any, it doesn't change anything at all. But we can find just any element on the page that has styles for when the DOM node is active, is focused, is visited, or is in hover. So you can use this to debug when you are changing the styles of, let's say, a button or an image or something related or anything related. So I'm going to collapse this. And also there's also like a new element here, which allows you to toggle between dark mode and light mode. For this page, I don't think this page supports dark or light mode, but I can open GitHub. I think GitHub supports. I can just open this. I can just open like this, my blog. If I open the elements, and then I can toggle, like, this is light mode, but I can toggle also dark mode. From the styles, you can see that it changed. And I can also select the automatic dark mode. When you select automatic dark mode, Chrome tries to invert the colors of the page in hopes of trying to make it like dark mode. So for instance, here, this website does not support dark mode, but if you select automatic dark mode, Chrome will try to invert the colors and try to turn into some dark mode page. I can disable this automatic dark mode. Seems here. You can also open the emulation, the color emulation by using this command prompt. I think is rendering. In the rendering drawer, you have multiple options here, like you have emulate CSS media, prefers color. You can select light, dark mode, and you can emulate multiple properties. You can emulate like a print. media type or screen media type, and you have multiple properties where you can emulate here. And you can even disable image formats or even image support in the browser itself. So I think it's that. They just moved this one from here. They just created a copy since it's more accessible than just hiding it here. Okay, I think that's it. There's also another option. I think here we know that you can use the filter properties. You can use the filter styles. Just select this page. And then here I can filter things like width, all of these properties. But in Chrome, you can increase the width of an element. Like you can just select this, and it's going to increase one by one until you get to, I don't know the number. However, I can select this field and then select shift, and then select shift, and with shift it's going to increase 10. Is going to add 10 every time. So if you see 1 to 50 and then 60, it's adding 10. So you can use shift to speed up how you want to increase the width or any property of a given element. Okay, so I think we have the difference between styled and computed. Computed, it's actually what's been applied to the page. Styled is what's been targeted to the DOM element or to the page. And this you can collapse and expand. And then you have here the layout. I use both Chrome and Firefox, and Chrome still has a lot of work to do here in the layout drawer. But here they try to make sense. They try to show like the elements they have applied flexbox properties, and you can try to understand how these elements have been laid, what are the rules applied to them. And you also have like event listeners. So I can just select this DOM element, and then I'll open here in event listeners. It's gonna tell me if it has a blur, there's a click, and it's going to show me exactly which line of the script is handling this event. So I can quickly jump to the line of for this page. And also here, just since we're already on the sources, you can use this to format the minified code. And if the page is being shipped with source maps, it's going to beautify the code. I don't know, like if it's clear, like this is the initial page, like with the minified code. But if the developers ship this script with the source maps, you can then like do the reverse of minifying the code. So like basically when you minify a code, which is like changing the variable names and then putting everything in one line, you can also the bundler or the tool that you use to minify the page also gives you a source maps file. In this source maps file, it has instruction on how you can unminify a script. So generally developers minify script because it's smaller and it's easier to transport in the network. But like if you want to do some debugging, it comes with some source maps. So the source maps allow me to see the full code. So here in the code, I think we can come back to the elements and then select exactly. And here already says like formatted. So I can go to this exact line and understand how the event is being handled. I think that's it. I'm going to jump back to the elements page. So you can see all the events how the events are being handled for this specific node. If you want to go to the body, you can go to the body and see how everything is being handled. And yeah. For Firefox, I think Firefox does this differently. In Firefox, you can see it inline. You can just, it shows right here, and you can just expand and see exactly like how how many events are here, what properties are here in this element. You also have DOM breakpoints. I don't use this tab. I don't use this tab much. There's also like properties, which is more often like the properties of a given DOM element. For instance, like all the properties that are associated with this element. If you need to see the inner HTML and everything, all the properties associated with the given DOM element, you can check it here, instead of just running like instead of doing like console log, instead of logging the element. So in the console, since we are already here, if you press $0, it's going to give you the last selected node. So some people prefer to do this and then stop accessing the properties, but you can just come to the elements and then go to properties. You're going to see all the properties. As for accessibility, I think this is what Audrey was talking about. I'm going to skip to avoid repetition. Back to the styles. There's something really, really cool that you can do here. Let me open this one again. So you can store this DOM node as a global variable. And then after storing it as a global variable, and then you can manipulate it here. So like Chrome called detemp1. So I can do multiple things with that DOM node. If I want, I can change the inner HTML and so forth. So this allows you to store any DOM node as a global variable, which you can then use maybe to compare with other DOM nodes. You can manipulate the DOM node. I think for now, those are the things those are the interesting things you can do here. Oh, also there's also the box model here. If you hover over this element, it's going to show you the box model. I like to go on the computer tab, and here I can see the width of the element doesn't have padding or any of these other properties. There's also something new on Chrome, this part called rendered fonts, which shows you how many fonts the page has. Let me open it. It's not really opening here on my computer. Let me see if I can open here from the drawer. You can see disable blocker fonts. Okay, I think something is wrong with my browser, but there's also the fonts tab, which shows you all the fonts that are being used in a given page. So I guess it's that. The next thing we are going to jump for the network tab. Here on the elements tab, I think I talked about the $0, which returns you the last selected element. In this case was doc type, but I can just come and select this one. The $0 is gonna return the last selected element, which I can then do JavaScript. I can then manipulate it with JavaScript. So now we're going to open the second part, which is the network tab. I'm going to reload the page. I'll disable cache as well. And then I'll disable the throttling. Yep. Still reloading. I think it's done. Okay, great. So here right away, it's going to show you a lot of information. For some of you, this is how it's going to show, but I like to use the large request rows. It's much better for me. Like it looks better. It's easier to understand the output. This is a bit cranky of my type. So yeah, you just have to change here if you want it to look like this. Show large request rows. Here in the large request rows, you have a lot of information. Mostly, I think the important part is to select exactly what you want to see. If you want to see all requests, you can select here. If you want Ajax, CSS, and so forth. Also, another important part before we go into the requests themselves is here on the status bar, you have how many requests were made, how much data was transferred, the sum of all resources, and then how long it took to process all of that, and so forth. So I can go to the first resource, which is this one, which is a JavaScript file. Also, first, before that, these columns, you can actually customize them. If you come here, you can set the columns that you want to see. If you want to see the URL, you see the URL. If you want to see the method that was used, you can check the method, the scheme, the domain, the remote address, if that's something that's important. You can add and remove as many columns as you want. I just like to keep it simple. I don't include the method. I just keep it simple. This is okay for me. And also another thing you can do here, you can sort by any of the columns. I usually sort by size when I'm checking which files are the largest and which one I can work on them. So I usually sort by size. And then if you see, like here, the largest file is 65 kilobytes, and so forth. I can go back to sort. You can sort by any other parameters. I just like sort by size. So here you can check, for instance, for this request, you went and got this JavaScript file with this name, and then the status was 200. It's a script, and it was initiated by the HTML file itself. It has 65 kilobytes. And then this is really important. As you see here, you have two details. You have transferred over network, and then the resource size. So to download this file was 65 kilobytes. That means that I think this file was compressed using gzip. Yeah, it was compressed using gzip. So it has 65 kilobytes, but uncompressed, it has 234 kilobytes. So here you can see the compressed and the uncompressed size. In Chrome language, they call it transferred. Here you can see here, yeah, we have transferred, and then you have resources. Like while we transferred only 368 kilobytes, the files themselves uncompressed have 1.2 megabytes. So you have that, and then you have the status. Another thing you can open here, you have the general headers. You can go through this. I'm sure we've used these ones, and then you have the preview of the file, and then you have the response. Here you have the response, the raw response, and then here they try to beautify it, and then you have the initiator timing, and then the cookies exchanged in this one. One thing you can do here on the network tab, the best thing to do is to not use your default settings. If you're testing for how it looks for users, you can come here and then you can come and select if you want to use fast 3G, slow 3G. Oh, what happens to this page when it's offline? Let's see. And then, so when it's offline, it doesn't have the service worker to give me a nice message. But I can change it to set it to be slow 3G, and then if I refresh it, it's going to behave like a slow 3G, but I'm not Or you can set like fast 3G, or you can just set the no throttling option. And furthermore, you can even customize it. You can add a custom profile. Let's say I'm not sure if in Ghana you use MTN network. And then you can set like 20 kilobytes of upload. This is kilobits, and then 20 of download and then upload, and then you can set the latency, and then you can add this profile. And once you close it, you open it here like MTN, and you can create multiple profiles to test for. Let's say you have different internet speeds, you can and internet behavior. You can test how your website reacts in those devices. So if I set this MTN, it's going to be extremely slow, I believe. like it is. It's being, it's being super slow. So this is maybe how it would look if someone with those settings. But I'm going back to node routing. One thing that you can do here on the Elements tab, you can trigger the responsive view, where you can select any device among the ones that are here. I like to put this at 100%, and then I put these tabs on the right. So here you can select the dimensions. You can select, so I can select iPhone 12 Pro. Like this is what the site would look like for someone on iPhone. I think we are aware of this one. But another thing that Chrome does, I think Chrome changes the user agent. So if you check the requests if you check for any of these requests, let's say the request for these images, and then search for the user agent. Here's the user agent. As you can see, it says iPhone, iOS, something. So Chrome also changes the user agent of the device, but I think it also allows you to change the user agent. Show network conditions. Okay. So here in the network conditions, you can change the browser. You can change like the browser that you want here, or you can just enter a custom user agent. So, and you can even add the user agent hints, and then lots of things. And furthermore, you can even set up the if it accepts if it accepts gzip, display, or broadly. So you can do you can fiddle with several changes aside changing the network condition. You can change the user agent itself, and so I'm going to close this one. And I think Chrome has this tab where you can select like different media queries for this site.
Hello, Ivan. Excuse me for a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, so time is fast spent. Can you wrap up? It will be great.
Okay. Yeah. I just got excited. Okay, great. So like I'm going to close for this one. Let me just reload the page. I think my internet's down. Is that it? Hello? Hello?
Okay, hello, Ivan. Yeah. Could you wrap up within the next 5 minutes for us?
Yeah, sure. I thought my internet was breaking.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yep. Okay, so I think I'm returning to the Devtools. I'm going to disable the responsive, the layout responsive mode. So overall, I'm going to try to go through. I'm going to go through this really fast from the other tabs. So now we covered the elements, and we're still covering the networks. One interesting thing you can do on the networks tab, you can export the current, you can export everything. So I can send this to someone else so they can check on their computer. I think with this option here, you can export this HAR file, and I can just call this one, then download it, and then share with another developer, let's say, or with someone else that has this browser, and then they can import that file, and then they can see all the requests that happened in the browser, what was the response, the timing, and this can help them debug or understand the issues that we are going through as well. And also for the console, I'm going to open like for this one, for the console. In the console, there's two interesting methods that I wanted to share. Just one, actually, it's called the console. That table, which basically like will take an array of objects and show them in a table. So I can just name Ivan. I'll add one object, and then I'll add another one. I'll just write like Lira here, and I'll create the last one. I'll just do this, and then if I do console that table, it's going to show me all the results in a table, and very well formatted. Like there's a slight difference between, I can just do like between doing this and then doing console.log. Like console.log does this, whereas console.table give us a very clear explanation of how the object looks like. Another thing you can do, it's here in the source tab. You can open the debugger. Let's say debugger for this file, and there's something called the inline. It's called the in. Let me just open here. It's called add a log point. So if I add a log point for this one, I can then write here like result, for instance, and then add another log point, and then another breakpoint, but a log point. So all these log points will allow me to, when the app is being executed, it's going to log the results for me here without changing the file itself. I just need to add the log points here on Chrome, and then the results are going to be shown on the console. Let me see, like 12 plus 11 is going to be, so the logs didn't show, but let me see. Add a log point. Yeah, so I have to add a log. I can add a log point, and then I can just get number 1. Okay, and then submit the log point. Yes, I think now it should work. So like if I write 12 plus another number, it should show like with the log points. Another thing that you can use in addition to the log points is the debugger. So the basic idea of the debugger, I think the debugger can be more effective than the console.log. So I can set a debugger here, set a breakpoint here, set a breakpoint here, and then here, and then I can refresh the page. When I submit 10 plus 10, and then at the debugger, it's gonna break on this point. So when I break on this point, I'll see this function get number. I can check what is the result of this function. So if I highlight it here, as you can see, it shows me the result is 10. And I can even like evaluate the text in the console. Like if I evaluate this, it's going to show like here on the console. But right from here, I can do like many operations without using console.log. You can see the result of these two. I can keep playing the script and see what happens at this point of the code. This allows me to do things that with console log would be, I would have to put one console log here and another one, like several, but with the debugger, I can do several things. I can even jump inside this function to see what's happening inside of it, and then see, okay, I have 2 inputs, and then they call value. I can see like the debugger pretty much gives you superpowers over the console.log command. And like here from the side, you can see the breakpoints, you can see the call stack, how it looks like, and even you can even change the value of a variable. So I think you can select any of these variables and change their value, which is something that it's quite hard to do with I can just go to this one and then go to the value and change the actual value of the variable only for this runtime. Whereas with the console log, you can't really do that. I'm going to wrap it up. The presentation seems like I've used all of my time. So yeah, I um I th- let me just go back here. I think I used all of my time. Maybe I'll talk to Shadrach. Maybe he can give me like a 1 hour, 2 hour presentation so I can go
Yeah,
over the
definitely.
other points.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks. If you have any questions, I think you can check the Google Chrome developers YouTube channel if you want to learn more. I also did a presentation in Nigeria about Chrome DevTools. The presentation is about 1 hour long. So maybe I can share the link later. Or if you have any questions, you can hit me on Twitter.
Yeah, that's great. We'll take the details. So look forward to having a more in-depth session. This event was really like it's amazing. I got to learn a lot of things. First of all, I did not know you could even take screenshots directly using the Chrome Dev tool. So I guess my screenshot extension is going down the bin. Yeah, I also learned I also learned about the computer tab. I don't know if you could toggle light mode and dark mode automatically. One thing I'm definitely going to use is the automatic dark mode. I'll see how I
Okay.
implement it in
Okay.
code so that I cheat the system a bit. Let Chrome implement dark mode for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, very, very great session. I'll continue learning more about it and look forward to future sessions. Yeah, also.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so up next, we are going to take a 5 minutes break and then we are going to go for a data giveaway. So we're posting a form shortly. You fill that form for the data giveaway and you can take a 5 minutes break to stretch your limbs so that you get energized for the next two speakers that we have. And we have one important announcement at the end of the two sessions. So yeah, we are looking at.
Hi, so welcome back. Okay, so we are going to introduce our next speaker, who is Etonam. So Etonam is a software engineer who currently specializes in developing resilient mobile application for Android and iOS and web services. He understands modern software engineering and always looking for a better approach to designing software. Aside from his day-to-day activities as a software engineer, he actively contributes to open source projects and co-organize at Flutter Africa. Let's welcome Eto now. Hi, Eto now.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Hope you are good.
Yeah, I'm great. Yourself?
I'm also good. And you have the floor. We can't wait to learn.
All right, sure. All right. My name is Brighton Onamtunu, and I'll be speaking on Flutter design patterns. These design patterns actually um, reflects on across almost every language or framework. So it's not only for Flutter, but it's a general design pattern. But this talk is just skewed towards Flutter. And the whole talk is inspired by a certain book, Design Patterns, Elements of Usable Object-Oriented Software. It was written by the gang of four, that's four software engineers that came together to write this book. And this book contains about 23 design patterns, which is a lot. When I started, when I submitted the talk, I wanted to talk about 8 of them, but looking at what goes into them, I've cut it down to about 6. But still, let's see whether we will be able to complete like all the 6. So the first question is, what is design patterns, right? So according to the book, right? So design patterns basically they are patterns. They are design patterns, names, abstracts, and identifies key aspects of common design structure that makes useful for that makes useful for creating a reusable object-oriented design. So what this means is it's more of like a concept, right? It helps you to create a reusable component. So um, basically the whole solid approach to programming or software engineering. Yeah, so these patterns are divided into 3 different sections. So we have the creational, we have the behavioral, and the structural. So the creational basically deals with how patterns provide object creation mechanism, which increase flexibility and reuse of existing code, right? So this is just talking about how you can be able to create different components or objects that you can reuse at multiple places or multiple parts of your application or software. Then we have behavioral, which is concerned about algorithms and the assignment of responsibilities between objects. So the behavior basically means how components or your system reacts, right, to various changes. You have the structure. So the structure basically explains how to assemble components and classes into a larger structure while keeping the structure flexible and efficient. So this structure, I want to say something on it. So I was working with, or I'm working with the Achieve team, the team that developed the Achieve mobile app. And one thing I got about the entire code bases, when you are changing things, right, you don't we don't break so much because of how the entire code base has been structured. Everything is made. The code base is actually very big, but everything is made in such a way that when you touch one file, like if you want to, let's say, change something in a file, right, or in multiple places, you don't have to go looking through your entire code base, changing that particular element. You just have to go to one particular file, change it there, and it will reflect throughout the application. Right. So this is actually like a very good design pattern. So the first one I'll talk about is Singleton. I'm very sure we've heard of this, especially um, if you did computer science or IT in school, or you have knowledge in object-oriented programming. I'm very sure you've heard of singletons. Right. So singleton is under the creational design pattern that it ensures that classes have only one instance, and they provide global points of access. So this basically means that no matter the amount of times you invoke or you call that particular class, or you call that constructor, it should only return one instance. It shouldn't create multiple copies in memory. Right? That's what singleton is. That's the simplest definition that you get. So let's look at this problem. So singletons basically were created to solve two particular problems, right? One is to ensure that classes have only one instance, because naturally constructors, anytime you call them, they are designed to create new objects in memory. That's how they are in by design, right? But we want to prevent that, or we want to fix that, because imagine you have a class called student, and every time you call student in your application, it is creating a copy or an object copy in memory. It will get to a time if it's like a Java application, you're going to get out of memory error, something like that, right? Because you filled your entire memory with just duplicates of classes. Another one is to provide a global access point to the instance. So you want to make it such a way that it's like you have a port, and that port contains everything you need in that class. So if you need something from it, you just go to that port and go and pick it up and use it. You don't create a new port with another data and use that. No. So as I said, the solution is for this problem is singletons, and those singletons idea is have one instance and only one instance only. So imagine that you created an object that has, like after you, so you've created an object, but after you called it, it creates a new object like every single time, right? I mean, as I said, this will just fill up your memory. So the entire concept of singleton is, so it will search whether is that class already in memory, right? If it's in memory, it will return you that class again. But if it is not in memory, then it will create a new one. That is the whole concept of singleton. So let us look at an example of how to create a singleton in Flutter. So this code can also apply to the Dart language. Right, so the first part here, I have an abstract class called database operation, right? And it has a method called insert, right? And this returns a map. And in the implementation of the class, which is database, it extends to the abstract class, and we are overriding the insert method here. Now, if you watch this line, I'm creating an instance of the class now, of the class database, which means that now anywhere I call this database class, it doesn't create multiple copies. So imagine, let's say you have an operation where you are saving data, you are deleting data, you are fetching data, right? And every time that you call database dot, let's say, insert or database dot fetch, right? It doesn't create a new copy of database in memory. It goes to fetch the database that we already have in memory and just use that. So with this, we are basically making use of less memory. So I mean, this is just a very simple example. And one thing I realized is most of us we actually do this on daily basis, but we don't know that we actually create singletons, right? I mean, these are technologies that, especially if I'm not from the software engineering background or software computer science background, or IT background, you may not know, especially if you studied programming by yourself or on your own through YouTube or other courses, right? You may not know some of these technologies, right? But it's actually very good to learn them and know them. Then the next one we'll be looking at is adapter. This is also one of the most common patterns that you see out there. I mean, people use it a lot, but they don't actually know that that is the name of the pattern or the design pattern you are using, right? So it's a part of the structural design plan. It allows objects um, it allows objects with incompatible interfaces to collaborate. So imagine you have two interfaces that, so even looking at the picture we have over here, we have a car and a railway, right? You can't drive a car on the railway because it will scale off, right? The road is metal and it has like, I mean, you can't just drive a car on it. So what the guy did was to build something, a rail on it, and he's basically using the car to power the rail whilst working on the railway, right? So the cart that he created, right? What you can see in the middle, what's right here, is basically the adapter. So the adapter is just helping the car to work on the railway. Yeah. So let's look at a problem. I think this problem is usually if you are working with banking APIs, you get them a lot, right? And also some other APIs. So imagine you have an app, right? You've created an app, a solid app, which is on Play Store and App Store, and the app actually makes call to an API that returns XML of stocks that of globally traded stocks, right? I mean, your app actually works. Everyone is using your app, but later on, you realize, okay, no, I mean, let me add some analytics to my app so that I can know where my users are coming from, right? Um, like I want to know, let's say, whether my users are coming from Nigeria, Ghana, or US or Canada, right? Then you add this library to your code base, and no, this library doesn't accept XML. Your entire app actually relies on XML, right? The XML API. But the package or the library you added doesn't use XML, it uses JSON. Then at this moment, there's no way you can actually make use of the XML or you can make use of that analytics library, right? So this is like a classical case, as I said, especially when working with banking APIs, because some of them still uses SOAP APIs and the return XMLs. So the solution is to create an adapter. If you've ever done Android app development, you actually, I'm very sure you hear this like adapter, right? You've probably heard this before, especially if you are trying to um, create a recycle view or you're trying to fetch contact list, right? In Android, you have to create an adapter and pass the data and do a whole lot of stuff, right? Yeah, so that's the whole concept. So it's just like a middleman, right? So over here, what we can do is we can create an adapter that will convert the XML to JSON so that while our app is still using XML, our analysis library is getting JSON at the output side. So with the input, it will give it XML and output to return JSON. So the whole complexity will be inside our adapter. So let's just look at just a rough example. Yeah, an example of how an adapter works. So we have an interface here, right? So basically an abstract class, which is iStocks adapter. So this has a method called getStocks. That is it. So this interface doesn't really care about logic implementation, right? Then the XML Stock Adapter. So this adapter basically makes the call to the API, the XML API, and it returns the XML. But because we are extending it or implementing the adapter that we have, it's going to override the method, the get stock method, and then at the end of the day, all we care about is it should return a list of stocks. That is it. So whatever happens inside here, like we don't really okay. So as you can see on line 11, we are calling a certain function called parse stocks XML. So this takes a string and then it performs a whole lot of operations, and at the end of the day, it will return an object, right? A list of stocks. That is it. And we have another one which is also the same implementation but for JSON. So this also takes JSON and it returns a list of stocks. So at the end of the day, if inside my code I need to convert the XML into JSON anywhere, I just have to call this particular method, the JSON adapter dot get stocks. That's all. Then I'll get my my stocks. I like you don't really care about what is happening in that logic because I mean that logic has already been taken care of inside what the parser that we've written over here. So that's how it's basically works. So the adapter is like the middleman. It performs. So since the two interfaces they are not compatible, it's just making it easier for you to work with the two. So it converts the XML to JSON for you. Now the third one we look at is the strategy. So the strategy is more of a behavioral pattern that lets you define a family of algorithms, put each of them into separate classes and make their objects interchangeable. Right. So let's say you have an e-commerce shop, right? And with your e-commerce shop, you have a shipping feature. And this shipping feature, there are three ways that you ship your item. One is the customer can come and pick up the item in the shop, right? So if not, they can order online, pay online, then they'll come to the shop and come and pick. The other one is you send it to, let's say, a station. You have a particular station where they can go and pick up the item, or that station can then deliver the item. By the end of the day, they are sending the item to a terminal, so a shop, another warehouse, sort of. And then we have the third one, which is we are sending the order straight to the customer. So we are delivering from wherever the goods are straight to the customer, right? So these are like three different implementations. And imagine like you have to actually implement this. Uh, in almost sense, someone would like to actually write different classes for like all these three because like these are all doing like different things at the end of the day, right? So the strategy pattern suggests that you take a class that's something specific. So if you look at these three scenarios, at the end of the day, you actually let me use I think a perfect example. So you have an app, a tourist app that I mean, tourists can use it to locate tourist sites, right? And with that app, what your first MVP that you ship out, it was using road, right? So navigation by road. Then you later added, I mean, people requested that okay, you should add more because yeah, then you decide to add navigation by um, riding, right? Then again, people say, okay, it's not everyone that actually likes driving or riding. So some people also want to walk. Therefore, you then add another one, which is walking. So now you have like three different uh, navigation route processes in your app, right? The thing here is it will get to a point where your code base will become very difficult to actually manage because remember you now have like three different navigation routes, and if care is not taken, you realize that okay, your code is no more maintainable, your code base is so large, and when you bring on new team members, they are finding it very difficult to actually understand your code, or when you touch one thing, another thing breaks, right? Yeah. So if that happens, it means that you've actually done something wrong. You can always rely on a strategy design pattern. So what it does is you look at all these three scenarios. What is the core um, functionality that is common to all these three? It is drawing a route. That is it. Because at the end of the day, whether a person is walking, is taking public transport, is using their own car, you have to draw a route from the person's location to the destination location. That is the common, should I say, function or functionality between all these three. So what then you have to do is you have to actually separate that logic into its own class, right? You can have a method that is called build route. So build route only takes a destination and an origin. Then it will, at the end of the day, return the route. That is it. So in your code, when you have the file that has to do with the road navigation, you extend it to uh, the common method or the common interface that you are using or the abstract class, the same as the public transport and walking. Therefore, at the end of the day, you actually you are not duplicating code, which is building routes, and also you are actually separating, I mean, logics, whilst keeping everything still together. We can look at the an implementation of it, but it's a little complex. So and there's not so much time, so I'll just move on. Now, the fourth one you can look at is state. So state here is more of a behavioral design pattern, and it lets an object alter its behavior when an internal state change occurs, right? So it appears as if the object changed its class. So let us just look at what you're saying. So the thing is, I mean, in programming, right, almost every class or object, right, there's actually an infinite number of states that it can be in. It can be start, idle, processing, pause, error. Like it's a whole lot, right? So you can't like you may not know which state it will be in because one minute it can be in the running state, another minute it's in the pause or idle state, right? So yeah, that that's the whole thing. So because the state changes like very fast and simultaneously, sometimes it's very difficult to track. And the solution is first, I mean, you need to actually know the various states that your application can go through, right? So when you look at publishing an article to, let's say, something like Medium, right? So the first, once you start writing your article, right, the first state is it will be in draft. I mean, if you leave that page and you come back, you realize that your article that you're writing um, is inside like your draft, right? So that's like the first state. The second state is, let's say you are done writing, but you haven't published it out yet. So just you are reading through, you are coming through, yeah. So like all those things, right? So that's the second state. The third one is when you actually publish it out. So that's the third state. So with this, you are just you are putting on all the states. Okay, I know my article is going to be in the draft state, in the moderation state, in the published state. So You then write your code pertaining to these three states that you've actually identified that your application will be in. And again, there's a whole logic implementation to this. Uh, we'll look at this like probably later. Or once, if you have access to the slides, you can go through it and look at the implementation. Like it's a little tricky, but you just have to understand that uh, everything has a state, and you're just like managing the states of them. Now the another one is the Fakado Facade, right? So it's a structural design pattern that provides a simplified interface. So this you if you write Laravel, you've seen this a lot, or even Node.js, right? Your libraries, the libraries that you use, or even Flutter, right? The libraries that you use, it uses a lot of this, right? That's why I said that. I mean, sometimes we actually use most of these things without actually knowing their name or their technical name, right? So what this does is just um, hiding the complexity of the library to you. So imagine a library in Flutter like the library that you use to format date, right? I mean, it's actually very simple. All you have to do is provide it a format and pass in the date that you want it to format. Then it will give it to you in that format. That is it, right? But when you click on that package and you go to the format method and you go inside the code, you realize that there's a whole lot happening there. Like there's so much happening there, right? So that is it. So they are hiding the complexity from you, or they are making it very easy for you to use, which means that even in the future, if they decide to change the underlying code of the package, right, you probably won't be affected, because at the end of the day, all you need to do is just pass in your date and your date will get formatted for you. This is an approach that I usually use when dealing with payments. So anytime I'm actually integrating payments into any app that I'm working with, I don't do a direct integrations. No, I never do that because it's actually very risky. So what I do is I create my own API, wrap around their API. So if let's say I'm using, let's say, Paystack, right? I'll create my own API, whether in Node.js or whatever, and wrap it around their API. Then I will consume my API in my app. At the end of the day, I know that my API is will ask for. So if it's something like a Momo payment API, right? It's asking for a phone number, a transaction ID, just to track the transaction, the amount that needs to be deducted, right? Then the what again? The network provider, right? And yeah, so something like that, right? So I have this. So basically, my API is only going to ask for only this information. But if you look at the actual payment API, API, they may be asking for a lot of data, right? But I'm going to be providing that all in my API, my backend. So at the end of the day, if Paystack API is down and I have to change it, I don't have to now go and issue a new update to my app. Like it doesn't make sense, right? I just have to go to my API, change the underlying payment API, let's say from Paystack to Flutterwave, right? Then I'm gone. So my users don't even know that there has been a change in the payment method. All they know is when they make payments, it goes through, right? So that's the whole idea behind this. So I've already explained this. So yeah, let's look at an example. So this is a code for, let's say, streaming a game, right? So you game a lot and you want to stream it and all that, right? So it's a simple implementation. So I have three classes. One is camera API, another one is PlayStation API, the other one is smart home state, right? So you want to play your game and also stream it to your friends to watch, right? So if you're streaming, you need to turn on your camera, right? And also probably your microphone. It was part of there was not so much space, so I had to remove that. Then Then if you're going to play the game, actually, you need to actually turn on the console because that's like the main thing. And at the end of the day, we are tracking the states of them. So whether is the camera on, is the gaming console on, and all that. So inside my class, so what I'm doing is I'm calling these two classes, right? I'm calling these two classes, and I have a method called start gaming. So start gaming, all it's doing is turning the is so anytime I invoke this particular method or this particular function, right, it will turn on the game console. If I decide to stop it, to turn it off. If I decide to start streaming, to turn on the camera. If I decide to turn it off, to turn off the camera. So which means that over here inside this class, I can do a whole bunch of implementation of algorithms over here, right? Inside the camera API, I can do a whole bunch of things over there without the gaming class actually knowing what I'm doing there. All it knows is that at the end of the day, if it calls the turn on method, something happens. It gets a response. If it's called the turn off, something happens. That's all. Most of the APIs we use are actually like this, right? They will hide the main like complexity from you. All you get is just a very simple interface to interact with. Then like you are done, and you move on. So now I'll talk about, I think this is the last one, is prototype. So prototype is a creational design pattern. It will let you copy existing objects without making your code dependent on that class, right? So which means that so you are copying something or you are cloning it, right? But you are not making it so much dependent on it, which means that if that one decides to break, it shouldn't break whatever the second object that you have created. So so let's say like you've been tasked to create, let's say, an object from an existing one, right? I mean, what anyone at all can do is just maybe to even like copy that code or just someone can decide to just copy the code. Right? The thing is there are some that if you don't have access to the actual code that you are asked to, let's say, clone, then that's where the problem comes in, right? So then I mean you have to find a way to make sure that you even have access to the private variables or classes that are inside that particular object. So the solution, is, as I said, is like just cloning. So the prototype pattern is more of like cloning a process or cloning an actual like object. So looking at this diagram over here, so we have a class called shape, right? And shape has a number of things. It has so you have a class called it takes a color, right? That's the first one, and basically we can clone the shape, which we can clone it into different shapes because we can have circle, rectangle, oval, and so on and so forth, right? So these are different type of shapes that we want. And we don't want to actually go and copy like all these into circle. I mean, what if we need to change the property or we need to change the behavior of some of the properties, right? If you copy it, won't be able to do that. And again, if you're going to make a change, you have to go through the entire code base looking for that particular variable or whatever and or method and change that, which is not a nice thing to do, right? So we have two different classes that are relying on the shape. So they are basically copying or cloning the shape method. So whatever shape provides, they use it, they add their own attributes also to it to get what they want. So this is a simple example. So we have an abstract class or an interface. So this class is called shape and it takes a color. And here it's cloning shape. So whatever shape you pass to it, it clones it, and basically it assigns the color variable to it. So it allows you access to the camera variable inside shape. And there are some different bunch of other methods that we probably need. Yeah. So now looking at the circle, we now have a class called circle which extends to the shape. This. So because it extends to the shape, we need to override all this, right? These three methods. So the clone, the random property, and the render. So the render is basically what displays it. If you do Flutter, you probably you've heard of the render object and render elements, right? So in this case, you're just displaying whatever that you've drawn, the circle that you've drawn. Now, the interesting thing here is you know that the so we have so our circle needs a radius, right? And if you know, radius is not actually part of the shape properties, but we actually need it in our circle because we need to know how big to draw our circle. So over here we are adding our circle takes what a color and a radius, right? And over here we are saying that the initial color of the circle should be black and the radius should also be like 50. So cloning this, we are saying that whatever radius that we assign to our class, right, should overwrite or should be assigned to the clone circle class. That's it. That's all. And in this method, we are just saying that we want to clone the class. There's this library that actually makes use of this a lot, and I think the text API in Flutter it makes use of this a lot. If you have time, you can go through the code base, right, and just look at how it was implemented. So this is it. As I said, it's supposed to be 8, but I had to shorten it because of time, and it involves a lot. There are about 23 of them. You can decide to go and read on them. That's something I would actually advise everyone to do because you shouldn't just write code, but write good code. So if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate. I have really learned a lot. This is very eye-opening, educative, and informative. So, okay, we'll take questions. Any questions for? Do you have any questions for him? Okay, so there's no question. So, thank you so much. We really appreciate it now. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Okay. Okay, so we will be introducing our next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker is Derek, who is a Google developer expert in machine learning. He's also experienced in data. He's also experienced in data science, machine learning, and deep learning with a keen eye for building machine learning communities. Let's welcome Derek. Hi, Derek.
Hi,
Okay, please hope you are good.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. We can't wait to learn. So you have the floor.
Okay, I'm going to share. Yes, so as you've heard, my name is Derek. I'm a Google expert in machine learning, and today I would like to cover some of the top announcements from the just concluded Google I/O 2022. So let's start. So one of the main things that was covered was about the Google ML ecosystem. You know that Google provides tools that can enable you to get your data, build machine learning models, deploy them, and even monitor and maintain them. In this ecosystem, one of the most important things is data. And one of the ways to get data is actually using TensorFlow datasets. There are so many of them, and you can start using them like immediately because they are already like pre-processed. Kaggle also provides numerous datasets. There is also a tool known as crowdsource.google.com, which you can check out, that is used for crowdsourcing data. Like when you go there, you can be able to like label some images. And then there is a tool known as Know Your Data for spotting biases in data. And we'll talk about that more in a few. Something new that was announced as far as data is concerned is a new Keras pre-processing layers. And the reason why these layers are important is because of what we call a training serving skew. So if the pre-processing steps that were done during training are different from the ones that are done during serving the model, this could lead to different performance of the model in training and in serving. So by using these new Keras API layers, you can actually make sure that the pre-processing steps that you do during training are the same as the ones you do during serving. However, these layers are not just for using like on the model. You can also use them outside the model, although it's better to use them inside a model, because when now you go to do the serving of the model or doing predictions, you no longer need to define the pre-processing layers because they are already in the model. And this screen shows you an example of such a layer, that is the text vectorization layer. The next thing that is important in the Google AI ecosystem is training. You can now you can train your models using TensorFlow and Keras. When TF2 was introduced a while ago, Keras became the official high-level API, which makes it quite easy for you to train your models. However, you can train them on Google Colab, on Kaggle, or even using Google Cloud. But then once your model is deployed, you need a way to serve these models. And we'll actually discuss this more as we move along. But one of the tools you can use is TensorFlow Extended, which provides a tool for, among other things, deploying your trained machine learning models. Also, as far as deployment is concerned, you can deploy your models on devices, for example, using your Flutter application on native or on a native mobile application, or even on the web using TensorFlow JS, and we'll actually discuss this more in a minute. So something that was introduced, that was announced, that is new in the Google AI ecosystem is the TensorFlow Lite in Play Google services. And this is an API that will enable you to reduce the size of your app, because you no longer need to bundle like the TensorFlow Lite libraries in your application. So to use this tool, what you need to do is to obviously do the required dependencies in your model.gradle files, but the code for doing your predictions will look something like this for Kotlin. And you just need to run interpreter.run, and you are able to start using this new TensorFlow Lite Google Play services. This is important and key for people in Android, so I'm sure they understand this code better. And something new that was introduced is the Coro Dev Board Micro. This is a board that you can use to deploy machine learning models on the edge. Like it's something similar to Arduino board. In fact, the board is compatible with Arduino. It so supports TF Lite Micro, and there is an onboard microphone and camera. And if you actually watch this talk, you'll see a demo where the person is using the model using the camera. And the advantage is that this board also has an edge TPU, like the models can actually run faster. So this was just introduced recently, and you can definitely try it if you're interested in deploying machine learning models on the edge. Also, you will find models that you can actually start using immediately. Something else that is important to mention that was discussed is how you can add machine learning to your developer toolbox. So not everyone is actually a machine learning engineer or a data scientist. So if you're not one of those people, how do you actually add machine learning models to your applications? So one, if you are developing mobile applications, you can use the ML kit. So ML kit is a tool that provides some, we can call them turnkey APIs for machine learning. Like they are already there. You just need to use some few lines of code like this one, and the code is actually easy. So when you look at the documentation, you'll find vision as well as natural language processing APIs, and you just need to just add a few lines, and you can start making predictions for your need for in your mobile applications. There is no machine learning code that you're going to write. You just need to go to the documentation, check the application you need, if it's text recognition, whether it's language identification, take the code for the respective APIs, and you can start using them right away. You can also find other TensorFlow Lite models on TensorFlow Hub, which you can actually use together with ML Kit in your applications. Again, you will not need any machine learning expertise to use this. Another tool you can use to add machine learning to your projects in Android is TensorFlow Lite Task Library, and these models are already trained, so you just need to add the code and the models will work. For example, there are models for image classification, object detection, text classification, and so on. And the code for doing this looks something like this. You just need to add the dependencies to your model to your Gradle file, and after that, this is an example of an image classifier, and you can see it's just a few lines of code, and you can be able to make predictions in your Android application. Excuse me. So what about web developers? So for web developers, you can use what we call TensorFlow JS. It's basically the same the same TensorFlow, but now for web developers. There are already like pre-trained models that you can start using. For example, for image classification, pose detection, object detection. Like these models are actually already there for you, and you can just plug them into your applications and they'll work. If otherwise, if you need to train new models, there are also ways that you can do that. And the advantage is that TensorFlow JS you can actually use TensorFlow Lite models in TensorFlow JS, and we'll talk about how you can create TensorFlow Lite models in a minute. But what about for backend developers? So if you're a backend developer, you can also use integrate machine learning in your applications by using Google Cloud ML APIs. So again, these are just like APIs, endpoints which you can call and pass in like an image, and you'll get the predictions. So for example, there is a cloud vision API, there is one for natural language, there is one for video, and there's also like speech to text and text to speech. So you just need to go to Google Cloud ML APIs, and you can integrate these APIs. Again, you will not need like machine learning knowledge for these ones. Once when you go there, the other thing actually you can do as a backend developer is, if you found a model, you can decide I'm going to host the model myself, and you can do that using TensorFlow. So having it's part of TFX, and the code you'll see on the screen, you just be able to run the Docker file, and again this will give you a gRPC and a REST API endpoint which you can start using to run predictions on the model. So what about if you need to create a custom solution, but you're not a machine learning expert? So in this case, this is where Google Cloud AutoML comes in. So once you visit the link, you'll see some use cases that you can use. For example, translation, vision, ML tables, and so on. So what will happen is that, for example, if you take like a computer vision example, you'll be prompted to, for example, upload some images, and you'll train the models on Google Cloud AutoML without any machine learning expertise, and you'll be able to deploy them. And once you deploy them, you can now use them in your applications using the REST APIs. Another tool you can use to train custom models is TensorFlow Lite Model Maker. So there's something that is known as transfer learning. That is, these models have already been trained. So for example, a text classification model which has already been trained, you just need to fine tune it using some new data. So you just provide it with some new data that you've collected. And once you provide this new data, you train the model on your new data, and you'll be able to download a TensorFlow Lite model that you can use either in TensorFlow JS or even in your Android application. Something else that was mentioned is some tips and tricks for training large models. So this one is definitely something that you should watch if you are training large models. And one way, the two major ways for doing this is where you are training with massive data sets. So you need to like parallelize the data. And then when you're using large models, you would need to understand how you can train the model, for example, in multiple GPUs. And even as we continue to build models, responsible AI is quite important, and Google did cover this with 3 main steps, as well as a responsible AI toolkit. And the first step here being you need to analyze. So for example, in any machine learning models that you want to, for example, you want to build some models for, say, some health sector, it's important like to work with domain experts, people who understand the industry. Make sure that there is diversity in the data. And one tool that you can use to check this is the tool we mentioned earlier, that is the Know Your Data tool. Then the second step is adjust. This is where you like test the performance of your model in different subgroups, like is it being biased on one group or not. And for this one, you can use a tool provided by TensorFlow, also known as Fairness Indicator tool. And the final step is to integrate, like to get the model to be used. And so for people to use your model well, you need to provide guidelines for using the model, what the model can do, what the model cannot do, as well as guidelines for when maybe to stop using the model if the model is no longer performing as expected. And one tool you can use to document the model is the Model Card Toolkit. I think I've covered quite a few of the announcements. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, so any questions for him? Do you have any question for Derek? Okay, Derek, that was very educative and we've learned a lot. I have learned a lot personally. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. So over to Alfred. Over to Alfred.
Okay, thank you very much for
Okay,
this
welcome.
wonderful session. So today we'll move on to the last announcement of the day, then we can call it a day. So for this last announcement, it's about our upcoming DevFest Accra 2022. So it's been a while we've had DevFest in person. We usually have it virtually, but this year's own, we are going to have it in person. Yeah, it's going to come on the 19th of November 2022. So we'll be having it in person. I'll be glad if all of you can make it to the event. Yeah, it will be at Accra Technical University. So yeah, we look forward to seeing all of you there. Yeah, thank you all for coming to the Google I/O Extended. We appreciate you for making it, and also thank you for our wonderful speakers for coming to impart knowledge upon us. Claudia, I hand it over to you for the closing remarks. Okay, I think Claudia just drop off, so I guess we'll call it a day for now, and we look forward to meeting you in the first 2022. Yeah, awesome. Okay.
Okay. Bye bye.